The December 13th joint meeting of the boards of directors of San Joaquin Hills TCA and Foothill Eastern TCA is called to order. At this juncture, I would like to ask our Vice Chair Piotr to conduct the invocation for us, please.
If you'd please join me. Yeah, we thank you for this time of year that we get to come and celebrate the birth of your Son, our Savior. God, we thank you that the Bible provides wisdom for all of us up here, and we ask that you would use your biblical wisdom for us and help us and bless us in our business dealings today. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you. And while standing, I wanted to ask Director Vixarek to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance by facing the colors. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Chair Miniger,
Present.
Vice Chair Piotr,
Here.
Director Heft, here. Director Swartz,
Here.
Director Vixarek,
Here.
Alternate Moore, Director Beal, here. Director Huang, here. Director Moreno, here. Director Mueller, here. Director Puckett,
Here.
Director Ward, here. Chair Sachs, here. Vice Chair Shea,
Yes.
Alternate Schneider, here. Director Zoe. We are one short for each agency on quorum.
Isn't Todd's rep able to do it?
Okay. Yeah, in some meetings we can. Okay, Scott is coming. Yeah.
We have a quorum.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. At this juncture, we're getting to the public comments section of the meeting. At this time, members of the public may address the boards regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the boards, but no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 2 minutes per person and 1 hour for comments, unless different time limits are set by the chair, subject to the approval of the boards. If needed, additional public comments will be held before the closed session portion of the agenda during the public comments part 2 and shall be limited to 2 minutes per person for comments, unless different time limits are set by the chair, subject to the approval of the boards. Madam Clerk, do we have any comments?
No, we don't.
Thank you very much. This is the first time. Very good. All right, I guess we are getting into the special calendar, which is a joint San Joaquin Hills and Foothill Eastern TCA item, recognition of outgoing board members. I see my colleague, Vice Chair Scott Piotr here, so I wanted to, Mr. CEO.
Maybe we'll wait for Director Spitzer to get here to do that item.
We can then combine the two.
Yeah, why don't we defer it to the end of the agenda then?
Very good. Well taken. Now we're getting to the consent calendar for the San Joaquin Hills items 2 through 8. Do I have a motion to move?
Second.
It's San Joaquin only.
Oh, San Joaquin,
Yes,
thank you.
your foothill.
I move.
All right, it was moved by Vice Chair Christina Shea and
Seconded.
alternate.
Excuse me,
Director Moore.
my apologies. Alternate Moore, since you weren't here for the previous meeting, you need to abstain from the minutes.
Oh, that's, I can see. Okay.
So we would need to do then two
I'll
different.
second.
Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. It was seconded by Vice Chair Piotr. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It was moved by everyone except abstaining by alternate Carol Moore. We're getting to the Foothill Eastern consent calendar items 2 to 5 and 9 through 14. Do I have a motion?
Move the Foothill.
It was moved by Director Scott Piotr.
Scott Boyd.
What, Scott Boyd?
Scott. Oh, I beg your pardon, Scott Boyd. I apologize.
Better looking, Scott.
And it was,
Chair, would you clarify what motion you're on, what you're moving?
we are
I'm moving
making,
items, consent calendar 2 through 5, 9 through 14, consent calendar.
On which board?
Foothill.
Foothill.
Okay, Chair, I would like to pull number 2.
No problem. So item number 2 was pulled by Director Kathy Ward. So I can move the remaining portion.
Yes. Yes. I'll move the portion. I'll move the balance.
Okay, it was moved by Director Kathy Ward and seconded by Chair Ed Sachs. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It was approved. Welcome, Director Harrington from the great city of Aliso Viejo. Thank you.
Last one of the year.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say one thing. I probably should have said this before our prayer, but we just want to keep Director Munzing in our prayers because he's going to be having an operation
Oh.
at about noon today.
I didn't realize. Very good, well taken. Thank you. All right, getting to item number 2, Director Ward.
Yes. This is the minutes of the special meeting of the Foothill Eastern. I believe it was November 8th. And on page 6, different item. Is it? I have Foothill Eastern approval of minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, October 11th. You're absolutely right. It's item, it's 9. And is that on the consent? Okay, so I would like to amend my motion to that I would like to pull number 9. So do we have to re-vote? This was the second minutes. That's why I got confused when I was asking what we were voting on.
And I'm just as confused because I wanted to pull the minutes for the November meeting
Okay,
as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
per
So,
the direction
sorry
of
about
our
that.
legal counsel, let's move back if I may. Okay, we are on the consent calendar items 2 through 5, 9 through 14 for Foothill Eastern.
I pull number 9.
Item number 9 was pulled by Director Ward, and
A second.
it was seconded by Director Huang. All in favor, say aye for the
Aye.
remaining portion. Thank you. Now,
I
item number 9.
apologize. I had it right when I looked at it last night. On the motion that I made a substitute motion, and I remember having more support for my motion than just Director Marriott and I. And so I questioned the vote on this. The problem is that where the people that I thought actually voted for it are not present today. I don't know if I should identify them. I think they should, I think it's Director Spitzer and possibly Director Bilodeau. Because
Well,
I thought that there was a 4.
Dennis Bilodeau is an alternate to Supervisor.
He is, but he
Nelson.
does vote.
Yes.
So when I heard the vote, I heard over here, I believe Director Spitzer supported it, and I heard also another vote over here. And so it wasn't clarified by Chair Sachs, the vote, so I'm not sure what we do at this point. They're not here to clarify it.
So we confirm all of the votes via the video after the meeting, so it was confirmed via video.
I looked at the video and I had trouble even doing my vote. Director Bartlett's vote, I could not tell. So the video was poor.
May I ask Chair Ed Sachs to clarify if you can recall the way that motion was moved?
Yeah, I believe, I believe Director Ward is right. I do remember 4 votes, and likely it was Spitzer and Bilodeau.
Very good, then we're gonna amend that item with Director Spitzer, Director alternate Dennis Bilodeau, yourself, Director Ward.
Yes, could I, excuse me, I appreciate the opportunity. There are just certain standards and rules this board has to follow. And if our video is what we fall back on is verification of votes, unless the individuals were here, I would suggest that we need to clarify with them prior to us changing any kind of minutes or putting anybody's name on there. This is not how we run an agency, a city. We have to follow up with verifications. So before I would feel comfortable approving the minutes with the suggested, maybe this person voted that way, this one did that. If our video showed something different, at this point in time, I have to stand behind our staff. If they want to call these individuals and then bring it back and we can clarify the minutes at another time, I would assume that's the proper way to do this. And again, if we have issues with minutes, we should get this figured out up front with our staff before we come to the board. I think it's very important that we would all call our staff, and after we read the report, we get these, 5, 6 days ago, just call staff, confirm with them if you disagree, then be prepared when it comes forward that we're real clear about what the problem is, or call those directors and get confirmation, right?
Okay, you have no idea what I did to prepare for this, so I would say to you that I did prepare, but the individuals are not here today.
But did
So
you
I
call
have
them?
to bring it
Did-
up
you
on
could have
my
called
own.
them or
The
whatever.
chair has said that's what he recalls. It's what I recall. I would ask Director Marriott if he recalls, because I recall a 4 vote in favor of that, and I watched Mr. Spitzer vote, so.
Well, just to finish my thoughts, again, I'm not of the mind that it wasn't correct or is correct, but there's a certain protocol we have to follow, and we can't just be sitting here guessing and then change minutes because we're guessing that we think someone voted that way. So I just think it has to be confirmed. I would turn to our
We can
attorney.
follow up and bring the item back at the next
I
board
think,
meeting.
wouldn't our legal counsel agree with that? Or maybe I'm off base, but I just don't think we can sit up here and arbitrarily guess about who votes and how they vote. And
We can review the tape again, and we can confer with each of the directors identified to confirm that in
Okay.
fact that's the way they
I
voted.
just
And we'll
think
bring it
that's
back to the next meeting.
I think that's just a better way for any of us, if we have a problem with minutes, that it's more scientifically done than just guesswork. So, thank you.
Well taken, then Director Kathy Ward, would you like to make a motion to move this item to the next meeting, which is gonna be February 13th, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, another director has to comment
14.
on it.
Yes.
But before I turn it over, I would just ask that the chairs please verify the votes each time when there's multiple votes going on, that we know who has voted.
Well taken,
Thank you.
thank you. So, oh,
Could I get a
Thank you.
clarification from Director Ward? Which of the votes? There were like 3 votes in that item.
The votes that I remember that I believe are wrong is the substitute motion that I made. The other votes I believe are correct.
Thank you.
very good. Director Huang?
Oh, my comment was I'm abstaining from that vote because I was not present. So that it'll be noted for the next meeting as well.
Well, well noted. Very good. So, all in favor of the postponement of item number 9 from Foothill Eastern only? Say aye.
Aye.
All right, it was moved. Moving on to the business items. Item number 15, joint San Joaquin Hills and Foothill Eastern. Item, manual image review services. Mr. Torkelly, Customer Service Program Manager. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alfonso Kelly, and the item before you here is to request authorization for CEO to exercise both one-year options for image review services contract, which will expire in June 2019. This item was presented at the November Joint Operations Committee meeting and was approved unanimously. TCA uses images of license plates to collect tolls from customers without transponders and to process violations. Image-based transactions represent 45% of all roadway usage. And the plate number and state are automatically extracted from 85% of the non-vanity California plate image sets captured by the on-road camera system. But the remaining 15% of those license plates, plus vanity and out-of-state plates, require manual review in order to process the transaction. And our contractor, Global Agility, reviewed more than 15 million images since July 2016, meeting all metrics successfully with a very competitive price structure. We estimate approximately $350,000 of annual cost for manual image processing for both fiscal year 20 and 21, which represents potential increase due to temporary license plate image review results. California has recently adopted the law requiring commercial vehicle sellers to issue and affix temporary license plates to vehicles prior to leaving the lots, which will take effect in January of 2019. This will increase the number of valid image review results and reduce the per image cost at the same time. Our new technology vehicle fingerprinting matches stored images of license plates along with the plate numbers previously identified through manual review. Increased automation at a lower cost is likely to result from the agency's ongoing use of this technology. The recently implemented system achieved matches for 60,000 images in September 2018, eliminating manual review of those images. These extensions will carry the image review service through to June 2021, and we will start the recompete process at the summer of 2020. Staff is recommending authorizing the CEO the authority to execute the 2 one-year extension options authorized by the boards with additional 10% contingency. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Chair Ed Sachs?
Just real quickly, I may not have heard correctly. Did you say that 16 million plates were reviewed last year?
15 million since 2016.
Since 2016.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I'd like to entertain a motion first for San Joaquin Hills to authorize the CEO for
Move the item.
All right.
I'll second.
It was moved by Chair Ed Sachs and seconded by Vice Chair Scott Piotr. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It was approved unanimously. On Foothill Eastern,
Move the item.
it was moved by Chair Ed
I'll
Sachs.
second that.
Seconded by Director Scott Boyd. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It was moved and approved
Thank you.
unanimously. Moving on to item number 16, it's a joint item, signage enhancements, construction contracts. Our corridor manager for design, Ms. Juliet Wu. Sue, I beg your pardon.
Good morning. This item is for the signage enhancements construction project contracts. This item was presented at the November Joint Capital Programs and Projects Committee meeting in November and was unanimously approved to advance to the board. So to give you some background on this project, when the toll roads were opened in the late 1990s, there were no standards specifically for toll road signing. However, in recent editions of the Caltrans standards, Caltrans introduced new standards that adopt the federal standards for toll road signing. And these standards include the use of the color purple to signify facilities that are all electronic toll collection facilities, as well as the yellow toll auxiliary plaque. And after implementation of all electronic tolling on our toll roads, the boards approved an amendment for HDR to prepare construction plans to update the signage system-wide to meet these new standards for toll roads. So with the signage enhancements project, we will be modifying approximately 600 signs throughout the toll road system, including removing 1 overhead sign structure and installing 2 new overhead sign structures. So the next few slides are to illustrate the existing signs and the enhancements we'll be making with this project. This sign here shows a typical example of an overhead sign at our mainline toll point. We will be replacing the Fast Track logo with the current logo and adding the message or pay online. These 2 signs are examples of typical roadside and overhead signs on the highways approaching the toll roads. So and as you can see, we're adding a purple banner with the Fast Track logo, the message or pay online, and adding the yellow toll auxiliary plaque. Similar improvements are proposed on the city streets approaching the toll roads, as well as at the ramp entrances to the toll roads. And lastly, we're updating the blue payment information signs to clarify to pay online if you do not have a toll account. So the next step of the project is the construction phase. The construction phase involves 4 separate contract authorizations that are shown here in this table. So let me first walk you through the 4 contracts, and then the following slides will detail each contract authorization. So first is the construction contract to physically construct the signage enhancements on the roads. The second is the construction engineering services, primarily to perform construction inspections and to monitor the contractor's activities. The third is the design services during construction, typically performed by the engineer of record to review and approve shop drawings and respond to requests for information from the contractor. And the fourth, for all of our construction projects, we require biological monitoring to verify the contractor's compliance with the project's permits. So these 4 contracts are typical of all of our capital improvement projects. So starting with the construction contract, the contract was released for competitive bid, and we received 4 responsive bids. The low bidder is BC Traffic Specialists with a total bid of $2.3 million. A confirmation of the low bidder's qualifications was performed, and BC Traffic Specialists was found to be a responsible bidder. The next contract is the construction engineering services. A request for proposal was released, and 3 proposals were received and evaluated. Based on qualifications, Ghirardelli has been selected as the recommended consultant. So Ghirardelli showed a clear understanding of the work required and proposed staff with the experience and expertise needed to perform the work. The third contract, design services during construction, the engineer of record is needed to perform these required services. And for this project, HDR is the engineer of record, and we are recommending an amendment to their contract for this work. And lastly, for biological monitoring, we are recommending issuing a task order to our on-call consultant, SOMIS, for this work. So in summary, the construction phase of this project requires 4 contract authorizations for a total of $3.3 million, which includes a 10% contingency, which we're recommending for this project. So at this time, staff is recommending the San Joaquin Hills Board of Directors to authorize the CEO to execute the 4 contracts described, including a 10% contingency, for a total of $1,761,404. And for Foothill Eastern Board of Directors, similarly for a total of $524,000. So that concludes our presentation, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Since I'm not a member of the Capital Programs and Projects Committee, I just need a point of clarification or maybe amplification by you. It is my understanding that you are going to be changing all the existing signage, or you are going to be replacing any potential signs that happen to be in bad shape according to FHWA standards of retroreflectivity and MUTCD guidelines.
So that's not exactly what we're doing, but what we're doing is we are going to upgrade the sign messaging so that it reflects the purple banner for all electronic toll collection facilities, as well as adding the yellow toll plaque. So if a sign panel is going to be replaced in full because of those changes, then we will be upgrading the sign to the current standards for retroreflectivity. However, if the sign does not require a full panel replacement, we are not required, per the Caltrans standards, we're not required to replace the entire sign, in which case it would not have the retroreflectivity for the existing sign.
Let me go back to the second portion of my question. According to FHWA's requirements and standards, and we have Caltrans rep here, you've done the feasibility study for those locations to make sure that all the signage happen to be in compliance and conformance of federal standards for senior citizens with regard to distance, with regard to all other factors that we always take into account. I'm asking a technical question.
So let me take that, Juliet. So if we're creating a new sign with this project, we're putting in a new panel in the retroreflectivity. If it's an existing sign under our agreement with Caltrans, that's their responsibility in terms of the maintenance that they would, if there's a requirement to replace a sign, that would be their responsibility, unless it's one of our signs that's specifically a tolling sign for tolling.
So, Mr. CEO, the PSNE package would be signed by Caltrans?
It is. It's approved by Caltrans, yes.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Director Huang.
I'm always curious when I see such a differential in terms of the bidding that, you know, BC is, the toll traffic is at $2.2 million, but everybody else is about $500,000 to, you know, $1 million more. Can you kind of guide us what perhaps are the differences in that?
Absolutely.
And why are we looking at someone who, I don't want to see any hidden costs or.
Right. So, so the contract is a low bid, and we did review BC Traffic Specialists' qualifications. We called their references, as well as spoke to BC Traffic Specialists about their estimate. They actually had 2 items that showed to be lower than the others, and that was mobilization and traffic control. And because BC Traffic Specialists specializes in traffic and signage, they own their own equipment for the work, in which lowers their rental costs and their labor costs. And so those 2 items happened to lower their bid quite significantly.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
It's me.
Director Schwartz.
Yeah, I don't want to make an assumption, so, but I would presume that we're getting performance and payment bonds on these, so that even with a bid spread greater than 10%, as these are, I see, that we do have coverage, that we have a surety that's backing it up, so we're not at risk.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes,
we do
that
have
is
bonds?
correct. Yes.
Okay.
Director Kathy Ward.
Can I ask a question on the color? If you can go back to that slide with the before and after. Another one. Keep going. Okay, there we go. Is the color that is proposed, is that the same color that we used before?
So it is the same color that was used before. It is the Caltrans standard color for purple.
How do we pick something that is not going to fade to what that other color currently is? Because that looks terrible throughout all the cities, I have to tell you.
Yeah, well, it did meet the Caltrans specifications. So during construction, we do ensure that a manufacturer is following the Caltrans construction guidelines for the specifications, and that's the way we confirm that they've used the correct specs for manufacturing the sign. We are going to look into it as they're being manufactured, but that is the only way to manufacture the signs is per the Caltrans specification.
I'm just wondering if there's some anti-fade sun protection, something, because it really should stay this color and not go to the other color. And if it's going to, I'm wondering if, I know you've all looked at it, it should be a different color. You know, it's just, if it's going to start looking pink, it's not a great standard.
Right.
Oh, that's a good comment. It is a federal standard, so I think getting the color changed, but we will look at, see if there's any sort of UV or something that we can put on it, like they do cars, anti-fading. So we'll look into that.
We can definitely.
It's
look
just a
into
comment because I've noticed it driving, but to see it here in contrast, it's
And we should make sure the standard has been updated by Caltrans, and the green signs used to really fade too, but now they're better now. So we'll research that a little bit. That's a good point.
Good comments. Director Scott Voigt.
That was actually my comment. Did the green start off with the dark vivid green like that's on the sign now? Was that the color of the green that was on the top one too?
The green was also the standard green. You know, that's just a mock-up rendering. It may not have been the exact.
What was the age? How long is that old? The first one been up?
That original sign was installed in 2014. So it's been.
So I'll move the item, staff recommendation, and compliment you on the marquee and the clarity of our new tolling signs, because you know, it's easier for the consumer, for the commuter to see that those signs are there, and that to pay online. I think that's moving us forward, and we are in the forefront of that. So compliments to the staff, and move staff recommendation for Foothill Eastern.
Director Voigt, before we move the item, Vice Chair Christina Shea.
Oh, yes, thank you. Well, I'll actually second it, and then we can talk to the item, right? Okay, so just quickly, I just want to, first of all, say I agree with Director Ward. You bring up a really good point. I would assume, I'm on this committee, never thought about the fact, I assumed, I didn't remember seeing this comparison, but I think some kind of seal needs to certainly be on these signs. And I would ask you, in 2014, did we follow the Caltrans standards?
We did.
I would assume we did. So have they changed? Did we note that?
We will confirm whether or not the standards have changed on that particular color, or if there's any manufacturer differences. But definitely we did follow the standard, that spec that was in place at that time. And again, we're following the current standard that's in place, but I'll confirm whether or not it changed.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's a value, if before we award this, we wait just a little while to confirm that there would be an ability, because it might change the pricing of the contract, to ensure that we can do some kind of seal, or, you know, the protection, what's it called, EV protection or whatever, UV protection. And then the other thing, so we may want to think about that, or within the contract somehow, I don't know how we would write it, but to ensure that we could make sure that when they put these up, that what they're producing is going to have that protection on it, and what the differential be. Maybe they just come back and give us a general idea, right? And maybe the CEO can approve that under that direction. And then Director Wong's comment about the pricing, I understand we go to the lowest bid. I understand the fact they have their own in-house trucks and whatnot, or, you know, but I would like us to be notified if there's any change orders, because when we get these contracts that are like $1 million differential, I think the board needs to know. We've seen this before many times. The contractor will get the contract, and then we start seeing change orders coming through, and sometimes the board doesn't even see them. So I would really request that as we move forward into this contract, that we're watching that very carefully, and if there are change orders coming in, I would like the board to be notified.
Before, yes.
Yeah, so
CEO.
I would just say that these are existing signs on an existing road. There are going to be change orders. That's why we ask for a 10% contingency versus a 5%. So we will come back to the board if we exceed that. We can report to the committee, but that's the reason we have a contingency, is we don't want to be, particularly on a job like this where you've got existing things, that they're going to find differing site conditions and things like that, bringing all of that back to the board. So I would respectfully say that we will manage it. We have a construction engineering manager out there who we give authority to make field changes and things like that. that our staff reviews, but that's why we set the threshold of when we bring it to the board's attention.
Oh, and I appreciate that, Mike, but I don't need to be educated in overseeing contracts. I understand what contingencies are, but you really are, when we approve a contract, it is not to move into the contingency, understanding, oh yeah, we're gonna have change orders. That's why the contract, in my sense, needs to be written where we don't go into the contingency unless there is a severe or a real need for it. So just to see it as part of the contract is not how I envision approving contracts. So I'm sorry, I just disagree with you. I would like to know, and if you don't want to give it to the rest of the board, fine, but I would personally like to see how many change orders are coming in, and then when we move into other contracts, we want to make sure that those dollars are penciled into the contract, and we're only using contingency when something seriously comes about. It's not to be a fallback, pool of money that we just know we're going to use anyway. That's not, in my understanding, why we use contingency. So again, I don't want to, bicker or, differ with you up here, but I just disagree. So I would request that we would have, at least maybe to our committee, we could have updates about when did we start going into the contingency, how much of that contingency are we going to use, right? So if it's a $2 million contract, we're talking $200,000. So then maybe we need to be looking at rewriting our contracts a little better and a little tighter so we don't use that. I just don't want our contractors sitting out there thinking, oh, it's fine, we've got a contingency. Actually, we're going to be bumping up your contract $200,000 because we always use the contingency. I don't know if people agree with me, but that's just how I look at it.
I think your suggestion to take it to committee is a very good one.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Director Carol Moore.
I had two questions. With the contingencies, usually they're there because you run into something you couldn't have anticipated. So you have to have the contingency, and I agree with you on that. I think I would be more interested in if there is a trend towards things that you could have anticipated, somehow missed, or a pattern in the contingency problem. You'll always have to have the contingency because you will run into things you didn't anticipate. So that is my comment on that. The other one had to do with the color of the signs. The paint or the material, and I don't know this, so I'm kind of asking a question. When you paint something, you have the material, the paint itself. And the material, the paint itself, is comprised of chemicals. And I don't know if this gets very precise because 4 years didn't seem very long for it to fade, but it could be. I mean, not knowing any of the specifics on this, does the Caltrans, I guess my question is, do they specifically get so precise that they have specifications on the paint itself? That's one question. Second question is, certain colors fade more than other colors. We know that. But you can add, there are additives that cause reflective properties that cause the paint to not fade quite as fast. And finally, there was the very good idea about putting a sealer on it. And I happen to know that can work in other instances. So my question is the paint being addressed by the chemical standard, which is meeting a standard set by Caltrans, and those other items that I brought up? Thank you.
So the properties of the paint itself and the color specifications are definitely dictated very specifically by Caltrans. How detailed the chemical composition is, I'm sorry, I would need to confirm that. But the requirements are very specifically spelled out by Caltrans. So we'll confirm that, and then we can look into definitely whether or not there's any sealants or additives that can be done.
All right, Director Janine Heft.
Yes, I have a question. I don't know if this has been brought up at this point because we've been going back and forth, but what's the average lifespan of these signs, being influenced by sun and wind and cars and all these different, outside influences that are going to weather them? What's the average lifespan that you're aware of, that makes sense? And then I would definitely also agree it's good to look in on what the standards are if they have been improved since 2014 for longevity of life.
Right. So the signs are able to be should be valid out out on the roads for as long as they're serviceable, and the messages are not obsolete. So there's no necessarily any average lifespan of each sign. It's really dependent on whether or not the sign message is still valid. And so and until the sign message is no longer valid, the sign is still serviceable. So there's no average. Every location is different. And so there is not really an average time frame. These signs, many of our signs out there have been out there since 1990s, and they are legible and serviceable as they stand right now.
Do you know if they were composed of different materials than the ones that are looking like they're on life support like those?
So the sign specifications, the Caltrans sign specifications change periodically. And so in 1990s, the sign specifications were different than they are now. And Caltrans does go through a very rigorous testing of their materials before they put out their specifications. So they are to be followed very regularly when we put out any kind of signs out there on the roads.
Okay, thank you.
Director Moreno?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a clarification, when we say that we are meeting or working within the specifications of Caltrans, those are minimums, correct? We could go above those if we feel that perhaps the Caltrans specifications lead to this. And given that riders actually pay for this service, that perhaps they may deserve a little bit more in terms of the quality.
If we change or want to do something different than the specification, even if we believe it might be an improvement, we need to get Caltrans' approval for that. So changing the specification in any way requires Caltrans' agreement. And so we would need to go back to Caltrans.
And is that an arduous process if it involves having a higher quality product?
It really depends on, we would need to just go back and talk with them about it. It depends. In some cases it can be, and in other cases the district can approve it. So we just need to talk to them, come up with our potential alternatives and talk to them about it. And then we can see what they'll agree to.
Okay, thank you. And just to reaffirm, and I appreciate Director Wong and Shay's questions on contingencies and the difference in contract. And I'm wondering, is the huge difference in contract in any way because the other contractors might have built in the expected contingencies compared to the BC traffic specialists, or is it simply because they own their own equipment?
We did a comparison across the board of all of the unit costs, and it didn't appear that there was any particular contingencies built in. The two major items were the mobilization and the traffic control, and so it really did appear that BC Traffic Specialists had an edge over the other companies because they owned their own equipment.
And is this a company that we've used before? That is, what companies did we contract previously to do this sign 4 years ago?
So we have not used BC Traffic Specialists before. The company that performed that particular sign in 2014 was Ortiz.
Which was one of the current bidders that is much higher.
It was one of the current bidders, and they were higher.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Marriott?
Thank you, Chair. I'm asking this primarily to try to get a sense of how much to put into thinking about 4 years from now, especially if we come to continue this item. We're spending this money because we've got changes in standards and adding some signs and so on and so forth. But if we look out 4 or 5 years and we have that kind of fade going, is there any process to refresh signage and colors with the materials that they use? I mean, if we weren't adding signs and subtracting signs and changing standards, would this conversation today potentially just be about refreshing the colors for 300,000 or whatever to make them more visible? And would that be a likely conversation 4 years from now if we have fade like this on all the existing signs, and then what become the options other than replacing them all for another, by then, $2.5 million?
Mm-hmm. So if we were concerned about color on the signs, we would have to do a sign overlay. That would be how we would refresh it. And I think that when we will confirm whether or not the specification for that purple has changed since 2014. So we'll do that confirmation and then be able to determine whether or not we might see the same kind of fade.
And now thank you, and now as a matter of pure curiosity, what's a sign overlay? Is that effectively spraying, jet spraying it, or?
I'm still sorry, so it's actually manufacturing a panel that would then be bolted onto the sign over the top of what you see there. So
Significantly less expensive than replacing it?
you pay for the manufacturing of the panel itself. The panel overlay is definitely less expensive than replacing the sign in its entirety.
Thank you. Do you know that? Did you know that? I didn't.
All right, before we get responses from Caltrans, Director Kathy Ward. Oh, okay, Director Schwartz.
In my other life outside of public service, that's my business, is dealing with public contracts, the bonding, the reviewing of them. I underwrite them on a daily basis. I read specs too much. In any event, though, what I can tell you on bid spreads is that it should be a concern, and we should be looking at I don't know if we want to be brought in anywhere in between the process, but it would be good for us to review the end result and what kind of change orders and what kind of increases, and just a synopsis of what occurred. We started out with a $3 million contract. We end up with a $6 million contract. You know, there should be some point in the process that we go through it. I happen to have we are national. I have a few sign very large, almost the largest in the country, sign companies that do this across the country. So I'm very familiar with the process and all that goes in it. I also am very familiar with contractors, and I can tell you that every time I've had a contractor come in and I said, well, man, you're like 30% below the next highest bidder. How the hell are you going to make money on this? And more often than not, I get the responses, don't worry about it. I'll make it up in the change orders. So that's where my profit is. So what I'm just saying is, yes, it behoves us to do what we need to do as far as specifications against paint fade and so on. But it also would behoove us to do some type of review process that comes back to the board so that we see our measurements are working and we have good controls. So my ideas.
Okay, let's go back to Director Moore.
Just a quick question. I support anything you're saying. You do have to watch the change orders, but I have another question. Wouldn't that be caught in the audit? Doesn't the audit look for that, look for patterns?
No, your audit's going to show that after the fact, just the figures beginning and end. They're going to track. They want to track to make sure the cash went to the vendors and went to everything else. But that never gets picked up at all unless you.
Okay. Okay. So is it the level of the audit, or is it?
It's that, and I've only been doing this 30, 40 years.
Right.
But generally in the audit, they're not looking at. They don't break down specific job specs.
Okay.
And specific performance on a specific job.
Okay.
They're looking at a much higher view.
Right.
So I just want to clarify, because people are raising a lot of concerns about the difference in the bid. So maybe it wasn't adequately explained. So this contractor has their own traffic control. So they do that, which is a huge part of this job, the lane closures and setting up the work zones all over the entire system. That's what they specialize in, is the traffic control. Everybody else has to subcontract that or has to go out and acquire the equipment to do it. So I appreciate the concerns, but we did a thorough review of this, and it is a job that's everywhere on our system, where and it is dealing with existing signs that we're changing on an existing road. So that is the nature of this contract. Yes, we could spend 5 years and spend $3 million designing it to make sure we didn't have any change orders. That's not a good investment of money. We hire a construction engineering manager to do inspection. Caltrans will also be overlooking this to make sure that the contractor is meeting the specification and doing the work in a way that it moves along and there is not abuse by the contractor and things like that. The public contracting system is pretty mature in dealing with something like this, and that's what we have here, and that's what we're going to do. And we have gone through an extensive process to hire all of these professionals to help us do it. And we'll be glad to keep the committee informed, the Capital Programs Committee informed of the progress of this work. And with that, I would just like, because Caltrans is our partner in this, once the signs are in, we're following their specifications. It's their job to maintain them. That's why we follow their specifications. So 3 years from now, if they had a bad specification, they got to maintain it. So with that, I would just like Caltrans to say something.
Yeah, just without knowing the specific locations or details, it's on, right? Yeah. Yeah, so without knowing very specific locations, very hard for me to be here to say why, but I'm very surprised by seeing this image as well. So typically the signs in green colors, at least I remember, I'm not operation deputy, I'm the planning and the local system deputy, not my expertise area. So I will go back to check with our deputy director of operation and maintenance, and she oversees all the signs, other programs. So, but I used to do a little bit of a science. I think at least the green colors, we can stretch to 20 years. And not everywhere, but sometimes we don't have a funding, we just can stretch. That's probably somewhere maximum. But I'm very surprised that 4 years, they faded so much. And so just have my commitment. We'll go back to look the specs, and maybe have something with unique locations, something to do with this less common colors, purple colors. So we will look into it. We will work with the TCA to make sure, and I heard your concerns, make sure we got the best and most return out of our investment, to make sure we find a way to, if there's no issue, then, we will definitely look into if that's a common challenge issue, we definitely need to modify the specs. So we will definitely work with TCA and to make sure, and I think your concern is my concern as well. Make sure this, if the color faded 4 years like that should be, we definitely should do something about it if that's the case. Yeah, we will look into it.
Vice Chair Christina Shea.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that comment, that you'll be on top of it. Just Mike, just going to your comment, I appreciate it. I don't want our staff to be defensive. I think it's important that we talk about this in a broad sense, but understanding this first firm has their own traffic control system. What is the pricing of that compared to, is it actually $1 million difference benefit? That's what I think, we'd have to really get into the contract. We never brought it up, but if it's $1 million difference because they have their own set aside, then it makes sense to me, but it seems like a lot of differential for that particular ownership of those, efforts. So is there any way we can give a general idea of what the cost differential is because they have that and the other firms didn't? And maybe that would just clarify everything right now.
Okay, this is what I suggest. As a professional engineer, having served for the past 35 years between New York and Hawaii, let me make my observations and a couple of comments. Number one, with regarding to standards, the state of California Department of Transportation, i.e. Caltrans, has the best standards in the country. No other DOTs, Department of Transportation, anywhere can come close to the state of California standards. When you go to federal court on any legal cases, Caltrans standards happen to be the gold standards, happen to be the Bible in this country for civil engineers. So that's about the standards of Caltrans. Number two, with regard to fluctuation in the pricing, I tend to agree with the staff report and also CEO Mike Kramer. This company, I researched that, Vice Chair Christina Shea, and they are in the business of traffic controls and mobilization. So in my view, if I'm sitting as on the selection committee on the panel, because they bring in that extra value, meaning that they can provide us with substantial savings. So that's why I tend to agree that, yes, we as an agency, as a quasi-public-private agency, we are making the best decision by selecting the lowest bidder. So I agree with the way they have been ranked. Now, my only concern happens to be this. Caltrans does have the best standards in the country. When we travel, when we are in New Jersey, New York, they have toll road systems. I look at their signage. I look at the quality of the signage. I'm very surprised that after only 4 years, this specific type of sign, meaning that the color that would correspond to the toll facilities, because it's an FHWA requirement, why it's getting faded? It's something happens to be wrong just for that specific type of color. Now, if all of us as decision makers wanted to recreate, revise, amend the contract requirements, then it's going to be extremely expensive to go above Caltrans standards. I've seen contracts in New York in my early life that is going to really jack up the price because we are going to customize, the requirements on the scope of work for the contractor, for the construction company, and for the designers. So then all of us, we have to pay more by imposing additional standards. The signage is pretty standard. Everybody uses that in the country. We ought not to move in that direction of customization of the signs as an agency when I've reviewed so many contracts with a lot of signage, New Jersey Turnpike, I can go on and on. Everybody uses the same standard, so why should we want to change that? So I'm not in favor of changing the specs. However, my only pending issue is that I'm not going to be voting on this is I'd like to get some feedback with regard to this specific type of coloring or, why we are in that kind of situation, because we don't want to see that 4 years from now we have to spend another $2.3 million, to revise them or update them, upgrade them one more time. CEO Mike Freeman, if you have any comments.
Well, it's just speculation at this point, but we put a lot of new guide signs in the last couple of years, and we're not seeing any fading on those at all. So comparing the spec with what we're using on the guide signs to this, in looking at those old signs, to be honest, it doesn't look like they have the film overlay on them that you typically put on a brand new sign, as opposed to when you just add a sign to an existing sign. So there may not be the film overlay, which has the UV protection in it. So we'll look into this. We'll figure it out. It's a good point. I think we can solve this working with Caltrans and move forward through this.
And to my colleagues, it is my understanding that both boards are not in favor of changing the selected construction company. Is it my understanding?
Mr. Chair, I made a motion for staff recommendation. I'd like the staff to look into the fading of that sign and look through the system and see that some of our signs that have been up for 20 years maybe don't have that amount of fading, or is that like the peak of where the fading kind of stops? Is that the initial bang of that, the fading just went to that point? Did that have the overlay on it? But come back to us at our ad hoc, and I sit on that committee, but I'll move staff recommendation right now so we can move forward. So
we already had a
with those
motion and a
recommendations,
second,
come back
already
to us.
seconded it.
Okay.
I just have one quick
Director
comment.
Happ?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned the guide signs. Are they also purple? I wasn't really. They are?
Yes.
They have a purple banner at the top of them, and I'm not seeing any fading on those.
The guide signs for toll facilities are in purple, and the guide signs for, roadway system is green. And black and white is regulatory. Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Director Moreno?
Yeah, no, I think the fact that this is 4 years begs why we're having to have this conversation. If this conversation was had 4 years ago, perhaps, is it possible maybe this is just unique to this one sign? Or is it unique to this contractor? Or because if other signs are standing the weather of time, maybe it's just this one sign. Maybe it's the way it's angled or something. But I think, again, I wasn't calling for a change of specifications. Right. I was just wondering if it's the specs that create this versus the contractor or whatnot. That's why your clarification of the gold standard is so important. So that said, I do support the item. It makes sense what you said about traffic control. In our city of Anaheim, when we have to do this work, we know it's extremely expensive because of traffic management and control. So it makes sense to me as well.
Vice Chair Piotr,
I'll move staff recommendation for San Joaquin.
any other comments? Oh, okay.
I'll
Director.
second.
Oh, okay. Okay, it was moved for San Joaquin, it was moved by Vice Chair Scott Piotr and seconded by Director Janine Haft. All in favor, say
I'm
aye.
sorry, Mr. Chair, I'd asked a question about, is this unique to this sign? Is this something we see regularly in our signs? It's kind of fading within a 4-year period.
In the ones that we put in as part of all electronic tolling in 2014, which were all basically add-on signs, it's pretty prevalent throughout this. So we'll get to the bottom of why that is and make sure that we, and I'm not sure if it's the paint specification or the film overlay that goes on the signs. It's more of a protective overlay. So we will definitely get to the bottom of this. And I appreciate it being pointed out because we might have just gone forward without thinking of this issue. Hopefully the specification is such that the new specification covers all this, but we're going to make sure, and we're going to work with Caltrans to make sure we're doing everything we can to, like I say, it used to be, if you remember the old signs, the green signs used to fade pretty fast. And Caltrans improved the specification where you don't see those fading as fast. And I know that's in the film overlay. So we'll work with them and make sure that we get the right treatment on the purple part of the signs as well.
All right, so for the San Joaquin Hills, let's have a revote. I'd like to have a motion to pass for San Joaquin first.
Second.
No, you said you want to recuse.
No, I made the motion, but if the clerk would note, I want to recuse myself on the SOMAS contract only.
Okay, so noted. All right, and then for the Foothill Eastern, it was moved by Director Scott Voigt and seconded by Vice Chair Christina Shea. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, it was approved, Mr. Chair. Yes, Mr. Chair.
I want to interrupt the agenda process just for a quick note here. There's two purposes for my comments. Number one is that everyone needs to know that I got a perfect score of 100 on my DMV test. But thank you very much. But in the 12 minutes I spent studying for the test, I did not see anything about purple color being on the test, or where people would recognize that the purple color indicates toll roads. So I don't know if it's a legislative process that needs to be done, if it's something in conjunction with DMV, but I think we now know, I'll never get this last 35 minutes back again. We now know about purple, but I don't know that the general public does. So having it in the DMV testing or just in the booklet, I think would be an advantage. And did I mention I got 100 on the, thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll send a formal letter by the two chairs to the Department of Motor Vehicles in Sacramento to include them in the next pamphlet. Very good. All right, moving on to the next item, which is item 17, Foothill Eastern only.
Yes.
Ms. Valerie McFall, Chief Environmental Planning Officer. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This project, or the item before you today, is regarding the 241-91 Express Connector project. That project involves constructing a median-to-median connector from the 241 toll road to the 91 express lanes, and again, a median-to-median connector. Caltrans is the lead agency for the project. They're overseeing the environmental document for both the federal environmental document as well as the state environmental document. The Foothill Eastern Agency is the sponsoring agency for that project. And the project is referenced here in the graphic that's shown. You can see the proposed connector there in the middle of the 241, again, connecting down into the 91 express lanes. As background for the project, in 2011, the Foothill Eastern Board approved the initiation of the project approval environmental document phase. So we did begin starting the supplemental environmental impact report and environmental impact statement to study the project. The project was awarded to Michael Baker International to do that project approval environmental document phase. The contract value to date is a little over $4 million. And we circulated the draft environmental document to the public in November of 2016, and that public review concluded in January 9th, 2017. Overall, we received 56 comments from the public and also local agencies. We received one comment from EPA, and it was actually a very positive comment from them. And we received 5 comments from local agencies, including 1 from OCTA, and then 44 comments from individual public members. Overall, the comments were very positive about the project. Most of them said, you know, get this started right away, or why wasn't this constructed when you originally built the project? So a lot of favor and support for building the project. After we circulated the document for public review, about 11 months later, in December of 2017, we did receive a letter from OCTA and RCTC, and they raised questions on the project's impacts to the 91 general purpose lanes. And they requested that the Federal Eastern Agency stop work until the projects on the 91 that are identified for the future be identified for sequencing, what projects would go first and how they would impact the 91. And so we agreed to look at that. And in February of 2018, we came to the board here and you gave us approval to have LSA and Stantec answer those questions and do the analysis to address OCTA's and RCT's questions. So since receiving that approval, LSA and Stantec both have conducted workshops with OCTA, RCTC, Caltrans District 8, and District 12. And all of those stakeholders agreed on the scope of work that was going to be conducted by LSA and Stantec as far as what projects would be modeled, the methodology that would be used for the modeling, and what projects would be identified for evaluation. They will also exchange traffic data, especially who's using the 91 express lanes, the number of vehicles moving through the 91 RCTC lanes and OCTA lanes. And so it was a good level of coordination between the agencies. These are the projects that were identified to be in existence by 2025 within the 91 corridor, including the I-15 northbound, so from the 91 to I-15 heading towards Las Vegas area. 91 westbound at Green River to the 241 on-ramp would be in place. Also a full-length express weave area on the 91 express lanes between the RCTC lanes and OCTA. And then some improvements over there, the I-15 eastbound terminus, and then also the 241-91 connector project. And these projects that are shown this are not necessarily in order of how they would be constructed, but they're at least identified for an operation by 2025. So the current effort that we need LSA and Stantec to continue with is to validate the traffic data that was agreed to by these different stakeholders, and then look at the traffic that was assumed in the original environmental document to make sure there haven't been any substantial changes from what was analyzed previously, and then evaluate the general purpose lanes on the 91 to ensure that there's no degradation or additional congestion on the 91 from the 241-91 project. And then look at additional scenarios if additional improvements are made within the corridor. And then also upgrade the project's investment grade traffic and revenue study. LSA is key to this effort. They will assist staff by providing the technical and policy support for this effort. They are key to working with OCTA and RCTC, technical staff with this work that will be conducted. They'll also help in obtaining any permits that are required for getting counts on the 91 corridor. And again, we do have to work with our partner agency, Caltrans, to get approvals to get that information. LSA will also look at any documents coming out of RCTC and OCTA regarding any projects on the 91, such as the 91 implementation plan, and then monitoring RCTC meetings for any upcoming projects or changes that would impact our analysis. Stantec is the key component because they're doing the traffic analysis work. And so they're updating and validating the prior work that we did with the environmental document. And so they're making some additional enhancements. Our CTC recently stated that they're going to make some additional improvements in the westbound 91. And so they're going to take that data and prepare maps to show the level of congestion and how our project may improve those congestion levels. And so it will be illustrations to share with our board members and also the other stakeholders. And then they'll work with OCTA and RCTC and then perform sensitivity analyses to show that if there's any changes to the projects that were assumed to be constructed by 2025, how that impacts the analysis that's being completed. They'll also work to calibrate the 2018 model, again, looking at the different scenarios that have been proposed by the different agencies to make sure there's no changes to the analysis that we are undertaking. Stantec will also assist in preparing the responses to OCTA's and RCT's comments, and then update the traffic and revenue analysis, refresh the investment grade traffic and revenue study. That's an important factor for the board to consider whether or not the project would be ultimately moving forward for construction. And then looking at the different traffic forecasts for the horizon years of 2018, 2025, and 2040. So the next steps for this is to complete the response to comments phase to address OCTA and RCTC's questions. And once we get the analysis that's produced, we will share that with our partners at OCTA, RCTC, and Caltrans. The item before you today does not include finalizing the environmental document. Again, that is Michael Baker's contract. This is just addressing OCTA's and RCTC's questions. Once we address those questions, we will return to the board for approval for a contract amendment to finalize the environmental document. So at this time, staff is recommending that the board approve moving forward with contract amendments to LSA and Stantec to continue this work to address those questions. And as part of that effort, we are requesting a 10% contingency in case additional changes are made to the network that were not assumed at this current point, for a total amount of about $409,000. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you for your comprehensive presentation. We start off with Vice Chair Christina Shea.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Number one, I want to compliment our staff. Our committee has worked side by side with you to go over all of these. We've been studying these heat maps to a point that I'm finally getting it, understanding what they are and how they work and how beneficial they are to understand the traffic flows. And clearly this project is justified to relieve traffic and benefit commuters. So the thing that the board's understanding, this environmental document is going to have to be moving forward fairly quickly. We've been pushing this off to work with our partners, but we could, if we have to let it go, we have like a year, and then after that we have to come back again. It's going to cost us another $3 million, which we honestly can't have continue. So I just want to say that it's been a very good education for me to understand how this all works and how we can see the benefit for this project. And so I'm very supportive of it and very thankful for Mike and all your efforts and our staff to really gear back actually and slowly work through with OCTA and our other partners to make sure that they understand that we want to be collaborative with them so we have a successful project at the end of the day. So with that, I'm very pleased to support it. I would make the motion and then we could speak to the motion if you'd like to do it that way, or otherwise I can hold off.
Please
I'll
hold
second
off.
the motion. Okay.
Director Janine Huff. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a point of clarification question. You're contracting with LSA and Stantec. Are they also contracting with OCTA and RCTC? And is that a coordinated effort? I know in recent past we've had some differences of opinion as far as how we want to proceed on these large projects. So I just wanted to find out what the relationship is between all the agencies.
For this effort, they are not contracting with Stantec and LSA to answer these questions. Stantec does perform traffic work for the different agencies, but that is geared towards their express lane operations. But for this effort that we're undertaking, they're not contracting with those consultants.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Director Kathy Ward, then Director Scott Boyd.
It went out of my head.
Okay,
just as you said that.
I
Hold
come
on
back
one
to
second. Wait,
Director
wait,
Scott Boyd.
Yeah, and then I'll look at it. Thank you.
Yes.
CEO, Michael Creighton, we are here for regional traffic. I can actually save some money because as a frequent driver to the 241 to 91, the evaluation of whether the 241 impacts 91 flow eastbound as a connector, I'll say that it does. And so the fact is that we're dumping into the general purpose lane, and the fact that when we finally achieve the flyover, it'll be put right into the HOV lanes of the 91. It'll be so much better. So I'm a huge supporter, but as an agency for regional traffic relief, and we have partners, so tell us where to stand with OCTA and just going forward with the environmental process that we're doing for these studies.
Well,
The heat, and by the way, the heat maps were eye-opening on the amount of traffic relief forecast in the future with these improvements. And so my hat's off to Stantec and LSA and staff. You guys have done a wonderful job informing us. It's a shame that the rest of the community, the board members aren't seeing that, but it's a huge difference, a huge impact. And so thank you. So
CEO Mike Raymond.
Well, just to answer your question, you know, when the RCTC 91 project opened, I mean, that was a huge project, adding the express lanes out to the 15 in a corridor that is one of the busiest corridors in the country, that has a traffic situation that, quite frankly, is volatile. It's, you know, you make little changes here and there in that corridor, and it's almost like whack-a-mole when you're dealing with that corridor. So it's important to work with our partners who have made big investments in that corridor themselves to understand that we're all doing the right thing and that we're doing these projects in the correct order. So when we did the original work 3 years ago, the 91 express lanes was basically a traffic report because it hadn't been built yet. So our existing conditions that we were designing to were what was out there on the ground plus what was projected in a traffic report. So this has been very valuable to go through these steps of analyzing post-opening of that facility to make sure that we really, as opposed to looking at a traffic report, looking at what's really happening out there. And you know, there's, like I say, it's a very complex corridor. So even with all of those improvements they've made, there's still issues in that corridor. And what we want to make sure is that our project is complementary to the operation of the corridor, that it overall improves mobility for the region, and that's what we're doing. But they're being very careful because, again, they invested a lot in that corridor as well, and it's not an easy corridor to design projects in. Thank you.
Director Kathy Ward, I'm coming back to you.
Okay. It looks like, I know in December 2017, OCTA and RCTC came up with questions, and we did authorize you to look into that. But it sounded like that there was additional questions that they have raised now, and that's why we're doing this. So is there other letters available, or
No.
does this just go back to December 2017?
Yeah, just December 2017. What's come up is they have identified other projects that they want to have analyzed. And again, that's to deal with the traffic they're seeing on the 91 express lanes. And so we've agreed to look at that as part of our scenarios. And so this request takes that analysis into account.
Yeah, as an example, the RCTC board approved yesterday the money to build a lane from the Green River Road to the 241 to add a lane westbound. So those type of things.
Okay, so that's a good point. Can the board all get a copy of what that is, those projects are, so that we can understand it, what they're asking and what we're responding to? Because that's big, and we can't follow everything that RCTC is also doing.
Sure. I would expect that once we finish this work and then we vet it with RCTC and OCTA and we work through the work that they're doing, that we'll be in a position probably at the next February board meeting that we'll have like a complete presentation on this project and the results of these studies. But until we've worked it out with staff, you know, yeah.
I understand. So one last question. The heat maps that everyone's speaking about, is that something that we can easily see, or is that something that was a simulation that you saw? that we've been?
No, with the 24191 ad hoc committee, we have shared the draft report, and those are exhibits in the draft report.
Do
So
they copy well? That they make sense? Or, 'cause sometimes we get a copy of something and we can't read it.
It's definitely, when you look at it, you can see the improvements that are made. And so, as CEO Cramen said, when we come back to the board early next year, that will be part of our presentation, and you'll quickly be able to see the benefits to the project.
Okay, I look forward to that. Okay, thank you.
All right, Director Marriott and then Director Moreno.
Thank you, Chair. And some of my general concern was covered in the last two Q&As. Just a suggestion. When we had a more complete presentation of some South County business, we had some commentary, kind of final hour from OCTA, and it seemed like they had some obvious consternation. Here we're referencing a lot of collaboration, which is great. I wonder if if you might consider adding something in the February presentation that speaks to the sense of agreement on where we're at in the process and the three agencies' understanding of which each is going to take, or in this particular case, what steps we're going to take, and something that attests to their broadly being in sync with it as opposed to being in disagreement and questioning what we're doing at what stage in the process like they did in South County. I think that would be helpful for evaluating going forward, having the same confidence that staff has that we're in step and we're in sync and getting their questions answered and doing what they fully expect us to do and agree with us doing. It's a lot there, I understand. But the gist of it is to include some, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have somebody from OCT here in February to speak to it. I mean, that would be ideal, I think, because there's a lot of chatter about how much we're truly collaborating. Right. And I know there's a lot of effort to collaborate, Valerie, don't get me wrong, but is it forced collaboration, or is it really, same sense of purpose and goal collaboration? There's a difference.
It's been willing collaboration, and it's been it has been very collaborative. And when we come back to the board, obviously with making any recommendations to the board, we will have to have concurrence from OCTA. That's our goal, to have concurrence from them for the project. And so with that, we will have something to share with the board, whether it be, representation from those agencies here, or at least some type of letter from them concurring with our approach. That's very important for us as an agency because they are our partners. And so I think that can be achieved based on your request.
Excellent. I think it could be very helpful. Thank you.
Director Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to staff I'm always just impressed with the level of detail, but yet summative detail to these presentations. Just a couple of clarifications and perhaps suggestions. I think the heat map, those are always to the general public the most helpful in helping us explain to them without having to go through a lot of reports of why this matters. And that's where we get a lot of questions of why are you involved in this? What's the process? Who's involved? But at the end, if they see the end game, then they tend to be more open to listening to the process and not get caught up in the details. So perhaps for future reports, even though it's drafts, just having access to the visuals that committees do would be extremely helpful. And I don't know if these are available currently on our website or not, but I would suggest that they should be, just so that we could point those to our public, and then that could also point out to our city council members as well, as a suggestion.
No, it's a good suggestion, but until we get sort of agreement between the partner agencies, I think it's better left with the technical people, but we're developing them and we're agreeing on them because they are a great tool.
Well, so there's not necessarily congruence on the heat maps themselves, or?
Some of the comments some of the comments and updating the analysis will change the heat map. So getting something out there too soon would not be a good idea.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then if you could go back to the slide of the groups that commented.
Oh, yes.
And it's really more for clarification, and so maybe perhaps a suggestion.
Right, sure.
So the comments received, and I appreciate knowing the different agencies. What agency is OCBC?
Orange County Business Council.
Okay, so is that governmental agency? Because when I read local agencies, I think governmental agencies that have purview, that are elected. It seems to me OCBC is more of an interest group or an association. So I would suggest maybe putting another one that says stakeholder group, and maybe that's the third line, the California Native Plant Society. I would just suggest putting it there because we've heard so much here about all these kind of networks. It'd be useful to be able to put them in the stakeholder group rather than an agency. We wouldn't want to confuse the public or lead the public to think something that we know is not true.
I agree. Thank you.
Good point. Any other comments? So there was a motion by...
Yeah, I made a motion to move the item.
I'll second that.
Very good. It was seconded by Director Scott Voice. All in favor, Foothill only, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oops. I beg your pardon, I'm not a part of Foothill. All right. It was passed unanimously.
Just go to the DMV instead.
Madam Clerk, do we have any other public comments?
No, we don't.
Very good. Then that leads me to the CEO report, Mr. Mike Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to report on traffic and revenue for November, so year over year from November of 2017. For the San Joaquin Hills corridors, transactions were actually down 0.6% on the San Joaquin Hills. And part of that is there is a lot of ongoing projects by Caltrans specifically on the 73, so there have been a lot of lane closures and ramp closures. So, but we're going to dig into it and make sure we understand why that, in my time as CEO, it's the first time we had a negative on transactions, so I want to find out why. However, revenue was still up 1.3%, so we're going to monitor that and look into that deeper. On Foothill Eastern, transactions were up 0.9% and revenue was up 3.2%. And then as a final thought for today, I would just like to recognize an individual who helped these agencies greatly through the years and passed away in November. Carolyn LaBelle from, she worked for us both with LSA for many years and then with the Nosman Law Firm. And everything we did, she was involved in when it related to our environmental documents. So just like to recognize Carolyn.
So noted.
Mr. Chair, if we could adjourn the meeting in Carolyn's honor.
We still have to.
We have,
Yeah.
when we do. Absolutely. All right. Chair Ed Sachs comments.
Did I tell you about the DMV?
Get the hook and get him out.
No comment.
Any other directors' comments?
Yes.
Director
Chair,
Huang?
TCA received an award from OCBC for public agencies, and that was in conjunction with San Bernardino County, correct? Does our CEO want to elaborate on that?
Sure. We received a special award for public agency collaboration for our agreement with San Bernardino Transportation Authority in collaborating on sharing back office operations with their organization.
Good job.
Before we move to the closed session, I wanted to recognize a very special individual. It is my pleasure to be here this morning to recognize Newport Beach Councilman Scott Piotr for his distinguished service to TCA over the past 4 years. Starting in 2015, he has represented the city of Newport Beach on the San Joaquin Hills Board of Directors as a director and most recently as vice chair of the board. 2015 through 2018, he served 4 years as a board director. Scott Piotr has generously served his time on numerous committees, such as capital programs and projects, communications and marketing, and environmental committees. He's also chaired a number of committees, including finance and investment, and toll operations, and served as vice chair of the operations and finance committees. Scott's service embodies the mission of the agencies to keep people moving and improve mobility within Orange County without the use of tax dollars. The executive team and staff at the toll road sincerely thank Scott Piotr for being part of our TCA family. Thank you, Scott. We wish you all the best.
Are those gifts recycled signs at the bottom? Is that what we've been doing with
I
all
wanted to
that?
take it from Scott. It was such a nice sign.
I'm just glad it's not purple.
But there's no purple, so.
Any comments? All right. Mr. George Joseph, would you lead us in the closed session?
Yes, Mr. Chair, closed session will be a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation under Government Code 54956.9 subdivisions A and D1. The matter entitled Associated Industries Insurance Company versus San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency et al. We do anticipate reportable action.
Just one quick item. This is for San Joaquin Hills and Foothill East.
That's correct.
Thank you. All right, the joint San Joaquin Hills and Foothill Eastern TCAs is called to order. Our legal counsel, Mr. George Joseph, do you have a report, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair, while in closed session, the boards of directors of the Foothill Eastern and San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor agencies voted unanimously to authorize legal counsel to defend against the lawsuit entitled Associated Industries Insurance Company versus San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency et al.
Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned, and the next regularly scheduled meeting of the San Joaquin Hills and Foothill Eastern will be held February 14th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m. And with that, we also wanted to adjourn the meeting in the memory of. Thank you very much.